Hello and welcome. I'm Philip and this is The Bear Den. In the last episode, we heard from Femke and Haas, founder of Jakarta Animal Aid Network and all-round badass. We heard how Femke arrived in Indonesia and began her work with JAAN, including projects such as Free Bali Dolphins. Now we continue our chat as we dive deeper into the challenges and triumphs she faces. So Femke spoke to me all the way from Jakarta, Indonesia, and as you'll hear, she was actually on her way to a wedding after this, but she did find the time to chat, which I really appreciate. As a warning, again, we will talk about animals kept in terrible conditions and going through things they never should have had to. But this is the reality. But there are positives, as Femke and others work to put a stop to this. A couple of notes in the episode, we refer to Kalimantan, which is the Indonesian name for Borneo. And at one point, Femke mentions the acronym CITES, CITES, which is the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So listen out for them. As a heads up, in the next episode, we welcome Patrick Rochelle into the Bear Den. Femke does mention him in our chat, and he is a champion for sun bears, and dare I say it, I can't think of anyone who has done more for sun bears in Indonesia than Patrick. But first, let's hear from Femke. There is a place in the remote northwoods of Minnesota, North America. It's located near the town of Orr, population approximately 300. Outside of this town is an area where normal rules are put to one side. It's a place where humans and wildlife meet. It's a special place, wholly unique and not without its controversies. This is the Vince Schutte Wildlife Sanctuary, run by the American Bear Association, ABA for short. The ABA is dedicated to promoting a better understanding of black bears and all wildlife through education, observation, and experience. I'm your host, Philip Pstubley, and welcome to the Bear Den. I was going to ask as well, because obviously mentioning orangutans, because we met originally through Orangutan Foundation International when you brought a big male orangutan called Jono and a sun bear named Buddy over from Jakarta. I remember that being quite an operation, you know, to fly them over. Government were there was all sorts going on. I just wondered what you remembered about that.
Oh, yeah, Jono was a very special case, so I remember. Actually, Jono, when I was starting just with JAAN as an organization, and we had this little office, and we received phone calls about distressed animals, there was a phone call about an orangutan running around in Kemang. And Kemang is an area in Jakarta. It's a bit of an elite area. I mean, not all parts, but yeah, there's quite, big houses there and people with, who would keep a protected animal like an orangutan for a status, just to keep them as a pet. So this is what happened. So someone had Jono as a pet. Jono escaped. And he was like early adult, just sub-adult, but early adult. Like he didn't have the full cheek pads yet, but he was big already. Like he was adulthood. And he was running around the street. So he was sedated, taken to this rescue center from the government, which is where I wasn't working anymore. This is the one next to the airport because I started the organization, but the orangutan was taken there, Jono. And then, I always requested the center and the management there, I always told them, like, if there's anything that we can do for the repatriation of the animals there, always contact us, because we always want to help. And they said, oh yeah, but we've got everything under control. And for Jono, they had already an idea where he was going to go. And then later I found out that Jono was still there, stuck in a cage. And that, that was quite shocking because the cage was, it's just a transit center. It's not a center where you can keep them on the long term. So I was like, he really has to get out. We can't keep him in a transit cage. This big orangutan behind bars, no sunlight. And that's when I started to work on the possible repatriation of Jono to Kalimantan as being a born-in orangutan. And Lorinda Jane, who lives in Australia, she runs palm oil investigations, and she also co-founded Ellis Park Wildlife Sanctuary together with me. She contacted me in the time because she also heard about Jono and that he was stuck in the center because ABC News had been filming in the center. So it was sort of this timing of, sometimes things just happen. They all come together at the right moment. So she was like, I really want to help and reach out and find support to move Jono to a better place. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do. So together we made it happen. And so we applied, like Iben, my colleague who runs, all the legalities, and he worked hard on getting the permits to remove Jonah from that center and bring him to Kalimantan. And then the center from Birute Galdikas, Ofi in central Kalimantan, was willing to take Ono in. So it was perfect. South Kalimantan, sorry. And so that
Oh,
was
well,
perfect.
it's like, yeah, Kalimantan Tengah, yeah.
Kalimantan Tengah. Yeah, it's still
Yeah.
Kalimantan Tengah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's still Center Kalimantan. So yeah, the center from Birute Galdikas, Ofi was willing to take Ono in. And they prepared the enclosure for Ono and for Jono, sorry,
All right.
for Jono. And so we moved Jono there, and the travel itself was also a really big adventure. First of all, an orangutan of 80 kilos, you need like a special transport box. You need to make sure that it's comfortable, but it's strong enough for him. Like there's a lot of things to think about before you do a transport like this. Are you going to sedate him? If you do sedate him, make sure that during transport he's awake, because you don't want him to sit in a strange position. There's all these different things to think about. And that are really stressful, because you want this mission to work out, and you want Jono to arrive healthy. And so, and I had the help from a volunteer, amazing volunteer, Ismutia. She went up and down to the airline, demanding the best transport, demanding like we would be able to check on him and everything. And the airline sponsored the whole relocation of Jono. So that was really great. And so we moved him together. And I'll never forget, when we landed, we heard this loud banging, and it was so loud, like everything was almost shaking. You could feel it.
Hmm.
And there was Jono in his transport case, like boom, boom, boom. I think he was so excited, and he was maybe a bit like, what's going on? And that's when I was like, hooray! I was so relieved with just hearing his sounds, because he's in the cargo area. So it's and I mean, I knew it was fine. We check and we check again, but just to hear him was like, yes. And then, but it was funny because everyone in the plane was so concerned. They were like, what is this sound? Are we okay? Is the airline? Is
Yeah,
it
you're like, is that the engine? It's like,
is it the engine? Yeah, exactly. Like many people were in panic. Some people were standing up, and we were like, "It's okay, it's okay." It's the orangutan who's finally going home, and then people started clapping.
yeah. Oh, that's
So
fine.
that was very nice. Mm-mm.
That's great. And then, yeah, well, obviously there was Buddy as well, who's a lovely little sun bear. One of the things I remember is because obviously your family came and Rio, your son, was there, and you
Yeah,
stayed at the guest house with us. And I
yeah,
remember making lemon cake. He helped me make it
yeah. We
together.
love the lemon cake.
So that
Yeah,
was
I
fun.
miss that lemon cake.
Um,
Fun. Yeah, and Buddy actually also has a very
yeah,
special story because he had no teeth. Yeah,
there's no claws. He had teeth, but no claws.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
because we had another bear shortly after. They took the teeth out. No, but yeah, him they took the claws out. Crazy,
Mm.
yeah, because they sell it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so cruel. Anyway, I'm so happy that Buddy could go there and also join the other bears and at least get a decent life.
Yeah, no, we did eventually build a big enclosure that he's in now,
Mm.
like 1 hectare that he can roam about. So
Yeah,
that was sad. I mean, it took a while, as these things always do, but eventually
yeah.
got him moved in. I also wanted to ask, there was another different sun bear that you'd brought to OFI previously called Chico. Do you remember his background?
Yeah, Chico was in the harbor in Jakarta in a like a rich area. People have their private harbor. So whoever owned him just had his own boat. And then I went there because I received a report about a bear in that area in a cage from Miss Mutia, who later came with me to help, get a body over and
Oh yeah.
Jono. And so she said, yeah, there's this bear in a cage. And she sent me a photo. And, sometimes you see these things and it's just so hard to believe. Why would someone put a bear in a cage like this? It's literally like just 2 times the size of the bear. And he's still young, like what, why? So anyway, went there with the forestry police because we worked together really well, confiscated the bear, brought him to the rescue center, and then, yeah, we relocated Chico also to Ofi. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, because I remember when I arrived, it would have been in back end of 2017. So I think he'd been there a little while, and he was in a den by himself, and he was displaying some stereotypical behaviors, pacing, and he was self-soothing. And
Oh,
it was fortuitous because on Christmas, so I got there like November, and on Christmas Eve we had a unexpected delivery of 4 bears that came from Pontianak. They just turned up, and they'd been kept at a government centre for about 2 months in transport cages. So they were all, first priority was like, we need to get them out of these cages. And where Chico was kind of ideal because we had three
yeah.
girls and one boy. And so on Christmas Day, I moved Chico to another den, an enclosure which had 3 males. He was kept separate, obviously, initially, but then we did introduce over time him to the other 3 boys, and they all actually got along really well, and they all very playful, and he integrated. And then all those sort of behaviors he'd been displaying in the cage by himself, all gone within
Yeah.
and
Wow.
yeah.
Just by having friends. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, it was so nice. That was nice to see. And then those other 4 bears, I mean, that's a whole other story in itself. But, they all got, luckily managed to introduce the 3 girls because because of the space issue, we had to do it quite quickly just to see if they would all get along. And luckily they all did. He got introduced, and we built another enclosure, got the 4 of them in. And again, you never know the histories of some of these bears because you're like, when you see that you first release them into the forest enclosure, it's like, is this the first time? Like, how long has it been since they've touched
Yeah.
grass? And like, have
Yeah,
that
I
has
think they're always tiny when they take them, so they
yeah,
don't. Yeah.
yeah, they miss out on so much, and it's just so lovely to see them happy and playing. And like the male
Yeah.
bear climbed a tree, and I was just like, it was because he never climbed for months when we first put him out, and then one day I just saw him climbing. I was like, oh, you're climbing a tree. I was like, it's amazing.
Those are the magic moments, right? That's
Yeah,
what
they
you
are.
look
It's like
for.
what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I was going to ask as well. So I want to ask you about Sumatra and your rescue center there. But first of all, I know that JAAN's fought for years to ban dancing monkeys in Indonesia. And I remember I was reading something about like late in October 2024, you were instrumental in rescuing like 31 dancing macaques from somewhere that was referred to as Indonesia's last monkey dance training village.
Mm.
And I know in 2019, the forestry and the ministry, have a total ban on
Yeah.
the use of dancing monkeys, which can be a
Yeah.
bit hard to enforce, I guess. But I just kind
Yeah.
of thought, what
Yeah.
can you tell us about this issue in Indonesia and what you're doing to tackle it?
Yeah. The dancing monkeys is a very painful issue because you would think it, when the ban was finally in place in 2019, that action is being taken to stop it immediately everywhere. But it doesn't work like that. There's just always the time of you have to socialize the ban, and then you have to explain how they have to confiscate. But we are here because I think that's what makes us a good partner for the government. We never just protest or say, hey, you have to ban the dancing monkeys, but you have to ban the dancing monkeys, but we will help you to take care of them. So you need to take responsibility too, because they are not going to take those dancing monkeys anywhere nice. They're not going to do that. So that's why would they take action? The same what happened with the first rescue center that was started next to the airport. Before that center was started, there was nowhere for the animals to go to. So yeah, it's easier not to confiscate because and then just get a fine and they can continue their travel. So with the dancing monkeys, it was the same. Like, okay, if you want this to be banned, then you need to be able to take care of them. And I think that's really important as an organization, not just to say stop, but also to give a solution. And that's not always easy. There's so many of these monkeys being exploited, and their status is still unprotected in Indonesia, even though they're now, since 2023 August, they're uplisted on the CITES appendix list as number 2. So they have a better protected level. But in Indonesia, they are still not acknowledged as a protected primate species, meaning that you can buy them, you can sell them, you can keep them easily. And that's very, very frustrating because this type of primate is the most exploited primate that that is around. Like they are exploited to be kept as pets. They are exploited for crazy YouTube videos where people pretend to be rescuers or put on diapers, and even more horrific things. Maybe you all saw the BBC Monkey Haters. That's one of the things we've been working on. There's these horrible things happening to macaques, long-tailed macaques, because they're still not protected, and people still can get away with so much stuff that they do to these monkeys, including dancing monkeys. So that's why the ban is there, but the implementation of the ban needs someone to push, and that's us. If we don't push, nothing's going to happen. So we need to push, and we need to investigate, and we need to find out where the monkeys, where they're being trained, where they're coming from. And so, for example, one of the largest training centers for dancing monkeys was operating from Cirebon areas in Java. And then previously, another big training center was operating from East Java, and that was actually the first ever dancing monkey training center around. So there we were dealing with, like, let's say, older generations of people that have been working with these monkeys. So it was a whole different situation, because we had to approach it differently. You also have to think about the people involved. And so we had to be effective. We couldn't just say, okay, it's banned now and we're going to confiscate. But we had to say, especially in the East Java village, okay, you have to stop because it's not legal now anymore, but we made like sort of re-socialization program for the people so they could choose a new profession, because this was all they knew. So what are you going to do if you just take it away from them? They're going to buy a new monkey and they're going to continue. So and if, as long as there is not a real legal enforcement, on if they would do it again, like there's no consequence of, like, I don't know, they have to pay a fine or anything, then yeah, they're just going to do it again. And they will run when they see the police because they know it's illegal. And this is exactly what's still happening. There are still dancing monkey operators until today that are just moving around. And if they see that, oh, there might be a confiscation because maybe they know they see the cars approaching, or then they just jump on a motorbike and they leave. So they also changed how they operate. They used to operate just by sitting on the street and traffic lights with the monkeys. And this is also the first time that I saw a dancing monkey was on the street in Jakarta. And there was this big male with his teeth, like, they don't pull them out, but they clip them. So open roots, you can imagine the pain, the open infection, everything. They do this always with the monkeys. So I saw this big male who was riding a motorbike on the side of the street in Jakarta. And this was the first time I've really encountered the dancing monkey myself. And this is where I said, okay, I'll do everything to stop this, because it's so abusive and it's so disrespectful also for the primates. It's just, yeah. And that was 2009. So we campaigned for 10 years. 2019, finally it was banned. And then the socialization process started. But until today, we have rescued 523 dancing monkeys. And we just released 42 this week. So the team is now with the monkeys in the field. And we are doing post-release monitoring. And last year, we released 86 individuals. So it's ongoing. The numbers still are quite high, sadly. But we do see, a lot of engagement of the public. People report to us when they see a dancing monkey. We can immediately take action. So a lot has changed, and it's positive. But yeah, it's and the main concern for me was to close the training centers. Like, if we close the training centers, that will make it really hard for them to continue to operate. And we did this, like I explained, with the re-socialization of the people. They had to sign a contract. They received like a micro budget. So we also really had to work hard on raising the funds for this, which is never easy.
And when you release the macaques, do you leave, like, is it like a troop? Like, you kind of have to release them all as a grouping? Like, it's not just like, one at a time, is it?
No. Our center is really set up for macaques. So we have one center specifically for macaques. It's in Bandung, in Java. And so all the ex-dancing monkeys, because they're all long-tailed macaques, they go to the center, they go in a quarantine. That means like isolation cages, which is always the hard part, because it's very stressful for them. But we have to do this because we have to know Are they healthy, or what are they? Maybe they are positive tuberculosis, which we've seen many cases of tuberculosis amongst the dancing monkeys. So the quarantine is really important. And after they fulfill the quarantine period, they will go into specialized socialization enclosures. So we never release a monkey just like that. There's a
Mm.
very detailed and long process. So then they are socialized, and this is also something that is not easy to do, because if you make a mistake, they can kill each other. You don't want, because they can be bullies, and they can, if they don't like someone in the group, or if maybe they are trying to get a higher ranking within the group, they will bully the newcomer, and things like that need your full attention. So that's why the team is doing a lot of observation work, just understanding the character of the monkey involved. Will it be a dominant monkey will in the group, or will the level be low? Is it, many of the primates that we receive they have no self-esteem, like they are really not confident anymore. They don't, it's like they just sort of give up on everything. And it's beautiful to see when they are being socialized to other individuals who
Hmm.
have exactly that same feeling. You can see that. Then they give each other this boost of confidence, and they start to become normal primates again. And this is a beautiful process, and you can never do this if you don't socialize them well. So we always socialize them in a group, sometimes just 10 individuals, but mostly we aim for at least 20. So we have a nice big group of primates. And it takes a long time. They can be in our center for 1.5 years, 2 years, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. It really depends on the individual. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Well, like you say, I mean, you've got various rehab centers, and we've talked about Java, we've talked about Borneo, we've talked about Bali, and I know that you've got your center set up in Sumatra as well, the Sumatra Wildlife Center. Is this the one that is there a documentary that's been released recently? Warren Ellis, the Australian musician, I've seen some buzz about that. That's the one he's helped with, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So we started the Sumatra Wildlife Center in 2018.
Mm.
Just first, it was like a dream come true, just to get some money together to be able to buy the land. And so we finally, because we have centers all over, but we never own anything. It's always borrowed land from the government,
Mm.
and it was always my dream and my aim to start something in Sumatra, in the southern part of Sumatra, because there's so much wildlife trade from Sumatra going to Java. So I really wanted to operate in that area. And actually, in the early stages, when I just arrived in Indonesia and we started the rescue centers, we already aimed to start a center there, because it's a hot spot for wildlife trade, but it was never realized. And it was always in my head, like, we need a center there, because all these gibbons, all these Sumatran species, like including the bears and birds and tortoises, and they're all traded going to Jakarta, and the route is very easy. There's a big harbor there. So it was always my, every day I was thinking about this center. We need the center, and trying to get, make a plan and find the funds. And then finally I got enough money to start to buy the land in 2018. And there was 7,000 square meters. And for us, it was enough. At least we could have a transit where the animals could stay, get medical treatment after their confiscation. So animals didn't have to be sent from Sumatra to Jakarta, because that's what used to be happening, and it's horrible for the animals. They're confiscated, they're stressed. They belong in Sumatra, but they're being relocated elsewhere because there was no setup there. And then in 2021, my friend Lorinda said, hey, she knew Warren Ellis, this musician, amazing musician, very talented man, who's, multi-talented man. She said, he really wants to help. So he's not just talented, he's super kind and compassionate. And he would like to talk to you. So I had this talk with him and Lorinda in 2021. We had a Zoom call, and I explained, we have this center set up, but I had a lot of animals there that were not releasable. And in all the rescue centers in Indonesia, there were animals that were not releasable. And that's the next thing. What are you going to do with the animals that are not releasable? And I couldn't stand seeing them anymore in these small cages, just yeah, they were rescued, but that was it. They were just stuck in a small cage because they were far from their homeland, or they were handicapped, or, for whatever reason. And we just also confiscated a pigtail macaque, and she had her both arms amputated because yeah, of horrific wounds on her arms. And there was the example, like, I don't know what to do with her. You cannot release her. So we just have to take care of her for the rest of her life. So what we really need is a sanctuary for wildlife that cannot go back to the wild. And it doesn't exist yet in Indonesia. There's no sanctuary for wildlife. All the rescue centers have animals that can be released or not be released. And it was my dream to at least create, I mean, slowly, everything is a process, but to create a sanctuary for all those handicapped animals, or animals like in April 2021. If you think about it, it's also crazy how that happened. The timing just all really came together. The talk with Warren was like in 2020, and Warren said, I'm very keen to help. And then we, with Warren's support in a few stages, let's say, we managed to create a sanctuary and extend the wildlife rescue center to almost 4.5 hectares, from just 7,000 square meters. So the support was incredible, and he was so committed. And here you meet someone who immediately put so much trust, and so much compassion in it, that, yeah, that's just really beautiful, and it's very unique. Yeah, it's really unique. I know I'm extremely lucky, that I've crossed paths with him, and so we could finally realize this sanctuary. And then in April 2021, just after we finished building the veterinary clinic, with also support of Warren, because he has a lot of followers, he has a lot of people that are really engaged with him, and so through him we could get so much support to create, finally a proper veterinary clinic, because we used to operate from a container. And then when the veterinary clinic was finished, we received a phone call. Our team that was in the harbor, together with the authorities, there was a confiscation of 1,300 animals. And many of them came from Africa, Brazil, Thailand. So there were loads of birds, loads of animals. There were loads of birds from Indonesia we could immediately release, almost 1,000. But still, there were about 300 other animals that could not be released because they don't even belong in Indonesia. So, I mean, luckily, we just had the setup for, the rescue center and the sanctuary. So, yeah.
I mean, that's timing. That's some timing there, yeah.
Yeah, because else I would have said, I can't help, I wouldn't have known where to put them. Yeah, so I'm glad we could help, because especially the meerkats, who belong in Africa, they arrived in this horrific condition, very skinny. One died within 24 hours. I mean, they needed really intensive care. If they would have gone to any other place, having to travel again, I don't know what if they would have been alive right now. But the team then, like the veterinary team, they worked so hard around the clock trying to keep them alive and doing what they can. So, yeah, and they still live at the sanctuary. And I would love to repatriate them to South Africa. And I have already requested permits, but sometimes bureaucracy just ends somewhere. I don't know where, but it just gets stuck, and the animals are still with us. But I mean, they're happy and they're healthy and they're thriving. Through Warren, we were asked to, help with the documentary. So there's a film director, Justin Corzel, and he was making a documentary about Warren, and then there was an idea, and then he learned about Ellis Park, the sanctuary, and then so he involved the sanctuary in the movie. So our work and the team especially, and that's what I really love about the movie. It's really also about the people that work every day really hard to help these animals. And so, yeah, it became like a very powerful documentary, I think. Like, it's just, I've never received so many hugs in my life after the premiere. Like, people were just, I think it really touched people. And that's, I'm just glad that we could get it out there, get some spotlight on the wildlife trade and what we're doing, and on this amazing man who's been helping us to realize this important center.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely have to. I haven't seen it myself, so I'll seek it out. And
Yeah, I know it's going to go into cinemas in Europe, maybe in September. So, yeah.
lovely. And also, I know we were just talking about the rehabilitation of macaques and how long process that is. And obviously, I've got experience of it myself, and I do talk about sun bear. I'm going to talk about sun bear rehabilitation in another episode and my experiences, because that's also a lengthy process that, it takes its time. And you actually have a female sun bear at the center in Sumatra right now, a female cub called Mano, right?
Yeah.
I just want to ask how she's going, and what's her background, and what's her personality, and what's happening with her.
Yeah, Mano is this tiny cub. When she was confiscated, she was maybe 4 months, 3 months. We don't really know
Yeah, it is
precisely,
all a
but
bit of guesswork, isn't it?
she was tiny. She was confiscated exactly 1 year ago. She was confiscated on the 19th of June, 2024, by the police in Jakarta. So she was being transported in the back of a car on her way to the buyer, and then they confiscated her. And she was inside this tiny fruit crate. So you can imagine how small she was, and she was really underweight. She was, just bones. And yeah, when I think about it, it makes me really sad because, the people can do that. They killed mother, and there's this tiny cub, and she doesn't understand what is going on, and
Yeah, yeah,
it was really,
can't wrap my
yeah,
head around it either.
yeah, it's just sickening that people can do that. They just order an animal online or whatever, and the impact it has on this tiny cub. So we had to like nurse her back to good health. The veterinary team was around the clock taking care of her. Of course, she needs milk, like as if she would be with her mother. So it's a really intensive work to take care of such a little cub, as you know, of course. And Patrick has been very helpful in, giving us advice because he's got so much experience working with these beautiful bears. And he also came to meet Mano and advise us on what is the next step. Can we try to give her the chance to go back free, or is she going to be stuck with us in the sanctuary for the rest of her life? And we decided that we have to do what we can to give her the chance to go back to the wild, meaning that as soon as she could start climbing, we would take her out, walk with her just around the center because we have a lot of trees there. And this is how we started to allow her to explore and climb and try things. And then when she was with us for 6 months, we brought her to the forest school. So we started a forest school, which was called Ching's Forest School. It's named after a friend of mine who passed away. And there it's like the first forest school we really started, where we bring the animals and we walk with them every day, or we are with them in the forest every day. But there's an enclosure where they can go back into in the middle of the jungle. And so we brought Mano there, and then we have like 3 full-time caretakers that are trusted by Mano. But actually, one just takes care of the camp, and the other 2, they walk with Mano every day. And you can really see that bond. Yeah, it's very strong. So if there's other people, she immediately reacts a bit of aggressively. Yeah, so we don't allow anybody to go there unless people are just bringing logistics, but they're not allowed to go to the camp, not allowed near Mano. So she only has contacts with these 2 steady caretakers, and she's been growing so much, and it's not just in size, not just in body weight, but growing in the way that she's exploring, she's climbing high, she's making nests. She finds her own food every day. I mean, it's incredible to see her process, all this time. And so I know that, we can't release her very soon because she's still learning, and we know that she's still in need of some, let's say, parental supervising.
Yeah,
She's
definitely.
coming back to the enclosure, and she's still getting milk every end of the day because, she's actually still a cub. Yeah, she would normally still be
Yeah.
with her mother. And now I just purchased a GPS. She already has a radio collar on, just in case we would lose her, but she's still close to us. And now I just got a GPS. So when there is the day that she decides not to go back with the caretakers, that at least we can still monitor her.
Mm.
I have to say that it took me a long time to make that decision because it also scares me sometimes, with this system and the collar around the neck. And is it going to bother her? Is it going to. But yeah, there is this release system, luckily. So we can just, after a while, just drop it so the collar can fall off. So I decided to use the collar and to buy the GPS device for the next phase, which is she's going to be relocated soon to the release site. And there we still will walk with her every
Mm-hmm.
day, exactly the same thing, but we can see her now like becoming more and more independent. So we know the day will come where she's going to build her nest high up in the tree and not return to the enclosure at the end of the day. And now she's already making nests, which it's so incredible to see how they make the nest. I mean, this is big mammal up in the trees, and she's very, very carefully putting the branches together and trying it. And they're just so incredible. And
Yeah, I mean, some bears they're not always the most graceful of animals, but like when they want to be, they can be.
she's, yeah. And
That's so nice to hear, and yeah, like the process, the way you describe it, sounds precisely the way which be getting done. Like take her to the release site, help her establish a territory, and she can choose to come and go as she wants eventually, and
yeah,
you stay there as long as she needs you to stay.
yeah, we are there for her as long as she needs us.
Mm.
And we have another bear. His name is Henry. And we were actually hoping that he could join Mano because when Mano was still in our center, Henry came. He was rescued from
Hmm.
also a governmental facility who had rescued, the government had received him from someone who kept him as a pet or something. And it was quite disturbing because the place where he was had nothing. It was just concrete. So he never knew how to climb. I mean, so when he came to the center, he was really, really clumsy. He would try and fall really hard, and compared to Mano, who learned to climb from a very young age, because as soon as she started to try, we let her. The difference was just too big, and we were just, and also Henry was not really connecting to anyone. He
Mm.
so we were just really worried if he doesn't have one parent, at least that he trusts, it's going to be really hard for him. But we're still not giving up on him, and I still have hope that he can be brought to the forced enclosure that we're now creating at the release site, and that has a more natural big structure, and then see how he goes there in the enclosure. But I'm not considering release for him until he trusts the parents,
Yeah,
let's say. We
I
know
mean,
that they will stay together. Yeah.
yeah, because not every bear is a ideal release candidate. It depends on the individual and how skilled they are, and it's a tough call to make sometimes. I mean, I know that.
Yeah, I hope you can come and you
Yeah, I'd
can.
love to come and have a look. Oh, it's been too long. So
Yeah,
yeah.
because we also received another cup recently,
Oh,
and
it's
now.
what happens. You take one, the floodgates open, and they just start coming in.
Yeah, and yeah, this one was also confiscated from the illegal trade in Jakarta, and he's really wild. He's really wild. He is not allowing anybody close to him, and so this is also like a special case. Can you release him? Will he adapt? Or do you have to keep him in captivity while he had already many months of being out in the wild? This is because he's really new with us. He's been there just for a few weeks now. And so yeah, anyway, I would love your input on that in the
Oh
near
yeah,
future.
I would
Yeah.
hopefully it can get out there. Yeah, because like you say, it's hard. I mean, I can't really say that without having met them. It's a delicate process.
Yeah.
And it takes so long, and of course, the results aren't always what you want, and so it can be quite disheartening. But
Yeah.
you got to do what I think it's you got to do what's best for the bear. It's
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing updates about Manu and the other bears. And again, I was just mentioning your son Rio. He's also making a bit of a name for himself as well right now, isn't he? In the Dutch movie industry. I remember we were talking one time. I think I was in Borneo. I rang you to like speak to you about like some well, bear stuff, and you were like, "Oh, I'm in Madagascar right now, and we're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
making a
Yeah.
movie." I was like, "What?"
Yeah. 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 Hold on. Can I pull my doggies back in
Yeah, no,
first?
no, please do.
Mm. Hi. Okay. Um, Yeah, Rio was asked, like he did audition because my sister works in the film industry and she
Right.
saw this audition coming by and she was like, "Oh, this is Rio," because they were looking for a young boy who's not scared of running in the jungle and who can speak Bahasa Indonesia and English and Dutch, actually. Yeah, the film was a lot in Dutch also. And yeah, it was like he was perfectly cut for this role. It was just him that they were looking for. So he did the audition, was immediately accepted, and then they were supposed to film in Indonesia. The story is about colonial times, where the Dutch were in Indonesia, and yeah, how families were sort of woven together in a way, but yet very different because of the status and, the Dutch colonialism, yeah, with the
Hmm.
Indonesian communities. Anyway, it was a very, I think, a powerful movie also because people don't really talk much about the colonial times, and it really brought us back in those ages, where there was like a big Dutch colonial boss, and he would have many people working for him, and he would have so much power over them, and how people were trying to get away or revolt to him. And anyway, Rio was like this mixed kid in the film, and in the end, he inherited everything because his
Oh,
father died, the colonial guy.
spoiler alert.
Eh?
No, spoiler
Oh,
alert, I was saying.
sorry. Oh, yeah,
No, no,
yeah, sorry.
no, it's
Right,
fine.
but he played quite. Okay, sorry, I'm not allowed to do
Just
this.
joking. Just joking.
But yeah, so he played quite a central role in the movie, and to film it, in the end, they moved everything to Reunion Island, next to Madagascar.
Right,
So yeah,
okay, right.
when you were calling me, I was there, and I was just really lucky that Rio now could take me on his adventure because usually Rio. I bring him on my adventures when we go to Borneo or when we go to Sumatra, and now Rio took me on this very unique, beautiful travel to an amazing island. Yeah, that was very special. And yeah, so
Oh,
that was for
cool.
me a real holiday. And he was working every day,
The shoes on the
working,
other foot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it was so much fun for him and a big experience. And there were
Yeah.
also big Dutch actors involved. So it was really cool for him. Yeah.
No, that's cool. What was the name of the movie? Just again, I've got a growing list of things I need to check out from you now. What was it called again, the movie?
Um, the movie Rios played in was Sweet Dreams.
Sweet Dreams.
It was filmed yeah, 2023. It first premiered.
Right.
Sweet Dreams. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And I kind of just wanted to ask as well. I mean, like I say, part of why I wanted to get you on is because I'm doing like a little sort of series about Indonesia, and it does have a angle about the sun bears, and I just wanted to obviously highlight individuals who are making a difference. And I know that the most of the audience listening to this will probably be in America. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's just spreading a bit of awareness and just opening people's eyes to what's going on there. And so I just kind of wanted to ask you about, is there anything else you want to talk about? Any projects, campaigns you're working on, and where can people find out more, and what can they do to help? Like I know it's quite a big question, but
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. That's nice. Yeah, we have a website, of course. It's called jaanindonesia.org. And for the sanctuary with Warren Ellis, so specifically the wildlife sanctuary is ellispark.org. And so information also about the film can be found there. Yeah, my message to anyone listening is just let's leave wildlife wild. Let's not domesticate them. Let's not keep them as a pet. Because even though you think maybe you're listening to this in the United States or wherever around the world, if you are keeping wildlife as a pet or in any way contributing to this trade, these animals come from the wild, like from Indonesia. So we are all really connected. So yeah, that's just my main, let's say,
mm,
message. Please
oh,
don't, buy exotic animals or keep them as a pet because yeah, there's this whole horrific trade behind it that's happening just because of that. And many die on the way to get to those pet shops.
mm,
And even though those pet shops operate legally, it doesn't mean that the animals they are selling have entered, their shops legally. And even if they did, it's not ethical. to trade in these animals. So I just hope that we can keep wildlife wild and we appreciate nature and animals and everybody around us, and make this world a better place together.
Yeah, and you're doing that, and one of the things that I appreciate. So the sort of first series of this podcast was all about, it's a place called the Ventuti Wildlife Sanctuary. It's in the Northwoods of Minnesota, and it's quite a unique area. It's called a sanctuary, but it's an open sanctuary. So it's like, there's wild animals there. They're not in cages or in fences, so they come and go as they please. And I think I came to appreciate that area so much more after going to Indonesia as well, because you get to see happy animals doing what they should be doing compared to what most of the animals I come across, obviously in Indonesia, are rescues, and they've been through these awful incidents, and you're just trying to make life better for them.
Yeah.
And
thanks. I appreciate everything you do for sun bears. And for bears around the world. There's not enough people like you. We need more people like you here, especially in Indonesia. Sun bears are still very misunderstood here, and many people don't even know we have sun bears. So often when people ask me here, like locals, like, hey, what are you doing for work? And I explain, and I say, we just received a bear. Often the reaction is like, well, we don't have bears. What do you mean? It's like, yes, you do have bears.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be proud of the fact that you have these bears.
No, but like you say, I really hope I can make it out there at some point soon. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I want to hear more about what's happening with Mano and all the other animals there. And thank you for doing what you do. You don't think you don't see yourself ever sort of hanging your hat up or stopping what you're doing.
No, I don't see why. It makes me happy to help them, and I see we're making a good difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, unless I can't physically do this work anymore, but I will always be involved.
Mm-hmm.
I will always try to find the support needed, and I hope in the future one day we're not needed anymore. I mean, that would be fantastic if people stop keeping wildlife as pets, if the trade stopped, if wildlife are protected in their habitats, and then our centers and our work is not needed anymore. But we're not there yet. So
yeah, but we'll get there one day, hopefully.
We must get there one day. Exactly. Yeah, we can do this.
Oh, lovely. Oh, well, thank you. And now you can get to your wedding. What sort of wedding is it? It said it was someone that you used to work with.
Yeah. So actually, when we started Dolphin Campaign, we work with different artists that make beautiful art. And one especially, his name is Sleek. He's from Java, from Malang. And he made beautiful murals. So we would ask permission, of shop owners or on walls that were empty, if we could create a big mural, a big drawing there. And he would create these very powerful images of dolphins, jumping out of swimming pools or jumping out of the ring, or always with the message, free Bali dolphins. So his art has been very, very important for the campaign, and I've known him for years, and I admire him very much because he's just really good in what he does. And anyway, so he's getting married. I'm gonna run off to his marriage.
Yeah, no, please do. Thank you for indulging me for as long as you have. The Bear Den, the American Bear Association podcast, was written and presented by me, Philip Pstubley. The music was composed by React Music. Thank you to everyone who has helped make this podcast possible, including Karen Houseman, Bill Lee, Clary Lee, Stephanie Horner, Donna Brzezinka, Ross Coyer, and Angie Page. You can find out more about the American Bear Association at americanbear.org. You can find Ventuti Wildlife Sanctuary on Facebook and Instagram. You can ask questions and submit comments about the podcast to pstubley@americanbear.org. The ABA is a special circumstance. We do not condone feeding wild animals. If you enjoy this podcast, help support the ABA either by donating, becoming an ABA member, symbolically adopting a bear, or come visit the sanctuary during the season and say hello. And if you do enjoy this, please do us a favour. It'll barely take you a minute. On whatever platform you're listening to this on, please either follow us or click the bell for updates and notifications. Please share with family and friends and rate the podcast. as it all helps us grow and is greatly appreciated.